I get this just right. Yep, there's my halo. It's just me. Welcome back to the good old Southern IA. We're gonna fire up this here Boda, and I'll show you what we're doing with it. Not really quite a cold start, but cold start season is getting closer. We're doing tillage today. What, the Kubota? Yep. That's where you watch us do our tile run through the beans. We're wanting to work that tile line down so we can harvest on both sides of the tile line without having a big hump in the middle. Started on this yesterday.
Last night was our first like super hard frost. I got to like 22 degrees for most of the night. It's like still 27 degrees, so we are still below freezing. No cover crop guru, but I believe that means that we're pretty much done with our cover crop growth here. So just wanted to check it out real quick. Quite a bit of growth from the oats that were just volunteered back here. There's cereal rye out here, and then we have the radishes too. Oh, they ended up with quite a bit of good growth there. You can polish these off a little bit. Just take a little nibble out of them. Great for breakfast. Not really, just kidding, don't do that. No what you can, those are actually called daikon radishes. And people in fancy restaurants pay a bunch of money for it. Feed it to deer and try and improve the soil health here. So I guess I could jibber jabber at you real quick like I am a soil health guru. So the idea about this is to keep having something growing and live roots in your soil all the time for things to feed on. But for us, what we're thinking is that these tillage radishes, oh, come on out of there. The ground's a little tough on you, aren't you? They grow a pretty big taproot right here, and then they pull a lot of nutrients, from what I understand, up into actual plant. So you're getting like kind of fracture of the hard pan to let water filtrate down. So they say you're going to pull nutrients up into the plant. We'll leave this plant where it is. You're adding a little bit of organic matter, yeah, but hopefully those nutrients decompose and it's gone from deep down nutrients to back up closer to the surface. Cereal rye out here, so it should green back up in the spring. I like the idea of cover crops, but it's a good idea. Just the implementation's a struggle kind of in our area. Come on, my neat fingers are cold, bud. Let's go. So Chris says he's done, except for we apparently have ran into an issue with the transformer being right there. Is that we're apparently throwing like 500 volts or plus 500 volts. Sheraton Valley's actually got to come back out this afternoon, and they actually have to replace that transformer.
The voltage is putting out a little over 500. We want to be closer to 480.
Walk us through here kind of what happened and got done. So I told Chris this is like a bag of chips here. Is that I opened this up the other day when I was here, and I was like, there's going to be some big electrical panel in there. We got a few breakers, but he did it to expand for the future so we can actually put another breaker system in here. But yeah, you want to explain it?
Your room here to keep on going with breakers. This is your main coming in. Comes in, hits your main breaker. Off the breaker, we're hitting a terminal block. Off the terminal block, we feed our two breakers. This one's our unload. This one's our fan. Coming off of here, off the main terminal block, we got a step down transformer. This will put us out 120 volts. That'll help operate the lights or any 110 power that's necessary for the area.
So we have a minimum charge, and Dad's kept his service for the other bins. And I think the minimum charge is like $18 a month. And when Chris installed the lights that are on here at dawn to dusk lights, I think is what they're called, aren't they?
Yeah.
They use $16 a month. So it's like he's still got $2 worth that he could just use. So those lights are using our minimum charge anyways, and my minimum charge is the same for this. Well, we happen to have 4 lights wrapped around here, so I should be right at my minimum charge on this. I really like these dawn to dusk lights on these new bins. I actually like the dawn to dusk lights on all these bins. That way, first thing in the morning or throughout the night, you got really good light all the way around your bin facility. Nice little security feature right there.
So this is the unload. We didn't put a label on it yet. This is the on-off switch for your unload here. That up, power comes in, hits your contactor, and as soon as you flip the switch on, this sucks in, tells the motor to go.
Clean and simple.
Yep.
The wiring for like a 3-phase looks way different than a single phase, just from looking at stuff. Yeah. It's like that's what we talked about at the beginning, is that you can have smaller wires, right?
Yep.
So it's like wires. It's like small wires, and it's like, oh, I thought they'd be substantially bigger wires than that, but it's not. So good. Now as soon as Sheraton Valley gets out here, we can have power and make sure everything else works. So Chris's information's down below if you are in the area and you need an electrician to wire up about anything. We got over here, it looks like they got this field done. This is actually the field that the 9670 broke in. So he had to come back, polish this one off. Sounds like we're gonna patch hop today. This like a 3.5 acre field, and then do like a 33 acre field, which, go on, will leave us with a little over 200 acres to go. So on soybeans, we like that. If we get what we got to get done today done, if that makes sense. Are done here today, but they're just about done. Dad's about, he's in a 33 acre field and he's got like less than an hour there. We're actually gonna head and go harvest my soybeans. So we gotta do a quick move here. Ugh. Soybean dust. How the heck are there soybeans in here? Pick you up at the bends.
This one is powerful. Why I like the beans. Champion seeds. Champion seedman.
See, these beans look good. Just look down the row of them. It's like, you look down that row, it's like
75, is that your prediction?
My guess about 45.
Oh.
If I could get to 50, I'd be happy this year.
Over to.
Oh, them are.
That was crunchy. That's crunchy.
I don't think there's much moisture in them.
Crunchier than corn chips.
I think those are quite dry. I read something that it's just about like every point of moisture below 13 is like around a little over 1% yield loss.
Something you don't see very often. Me driving, him walking. That one, that didn't. You made that look easy.
It's because I'm so strong.
It's not like we're
I mean, if you look down at that, is a good looking, like, you see little branches out there and stuff. That's a good looking 15-inch row bean. What's the phone number? 8675309.
8673509.
Okay.
You can make a song out of that.
Oh.
I wouldn't know it. Hey, did you see that? Somebody commented in the comments that song I couldn't remember the name of. Poor Boys Can Survive.
Oh yeah.
That's what he said. I haven't looked it up yet.
So we're on to my farm, and there's actually quite a few things that were differently done on this farm this year. These were the first beans that we planted. They were planted directly into cereal rye that I planted with the planter last year on 15-inch rows. So then I split the cereal rye. These were, I don't want to say they were the first beans in Appanoose County, but they sure as heck had to be close to being the first beans in Appanoose County. And my plot's in here where I've got a Saltro treated soybean in there, and some untreated soybeans, and some and a population trial in there. And actually Saltro is something that we've been looking at this year as something that we were possibly adding to our seed treatment for multiple reasons, and that's actually something that I studied this year throughout the growing season. And we'll give you a recap on the things that we saw throughout the year here in a little bit. Well, I'd say the deer and the trees got their fair share of these. Combine doesn't even know it's harvesting right now. I'd say that means they're probably not record-breaking soybeans. Pretty low. Morning. Middle of the video for you guys. It's kind of chilly this morning. If you made it this far in the video yet and you haven't hit the thumbs up button, please do so. Consider subscribing to the channel. According to the weather stick, it's been kind of breezy the past few days, and it says to go cut beans. There we go. Some people are really particular about that. But we got a little bit of a tire issue on this 9660. First thing this morning, we actually got 2 tire issues going on with it. Well, technically one's a rim issue. Fantastic way to start the day. Open the side shield on the combine. And dust goes straight down your neck. That itches. Good news, I had my emergency golf shirt because I got my silver truck since the white one's broke, which is basically right now my mobile golf club carrier. Even though the golf season's pretty much over unless I can get into one more tournament or something like that this year. The last one we golfed at was actually for the Albia FFA, and we didn't do good. So the issue is this tire keeps losing air. This tire's doing fine. This one's rim is shearing bolts pretty badly. So luckily we still got 60%, so that's still a passing grade. Joking, but we're about 1 bolt away from that not being real good. It's not real good right now, but when one combine's broke, you run this one until the other one does. What scares me, however, is though the last time, even before I was YouTubing, this combine had a few issues go on with it. One year that really dragged out harvest, it broke like twice badly. And one of them was actually that when it was shearing bolts, we didn't know why it was shearing bolts. But this rim right here actually cracked out on the inside and then flexed over the drive. So we had to go find a new rim. All kinds of a headache is what that did. And unfortunately, I distinctly remember that happening during like the one good week of bean cutting we had that year. The one good week this combine was down. What Wayne and I have left to cut this morning is my soybean plot. And the soybean plot has quite a few different test strips in there. One of them being a Saltro treated soybean. And we'll go back and kind of look at all the things that I learned watching Saltro as a seed treatment perform throughout the growing season. Saltro is actually a seed treatment to help reduce the effects of sudden death syndrome in your field, which means your first chance of having a good yield actually is this time of year when the planter is rolling across the ground, by making the choice to treat your seed or not treat your seed against sudden death syndrome. I had the chance to use Zach as a resource to learn about sudden death syndrome and how it works throughout the plants and in your fields. I asked him to actually make a couple of clips to help kind of inform you guys what sudden death syndrome is.
Zach Trower here, agronomic service representative with Syngenta in Eastern Iowa. So first up, we got to talk about what is sudden death syndrome. So sudden death syndrome commonly infects our soybeans that are planted early in cool, wet conditions. What it's caused by is a fungus called Fusarium virgiliforme. And what that fungus does is infect our roots early in the season during planting time. So as soon as we plant that seed in those cool, wet conditions, a fungus will actually infect those roots right out of the get-go. Problem with SDS, or sudden death syndrome, is we don't see the results of it till later in the season. Late September here today, and we're actually seeing some SDS show up. Now, it hasn't been very prevalent in Iowa, and the reason for that, we planted in very warm, wet soils. Now, like I said, it takes cool, wet soils for SDS to infect the plant. So really, what we're seeing is we didn't have the ideal conditions for this disease, but we still actually have some SDS, and I wanted to show what that disease looks like in the field. This is what SDS looks like. These soybeans were planted a little bit later and they didn't have a SDS treatment on them. And you can see that yellowing in between the veins here. These veins are nice and green. Why is it called sudden death syndrome? Because if we give this plant a little bit more time, it's just gonna turn and die. We can see some very dramatic yield loss from it. And the reason for that is as these plants continue to grow, photosynthesize, and fill out those pods, if we kill them early, it might not have those pods form yet, and that can cause some severe yield interactions in beans. And you're talking, you know, I've seen guys have their yields cut in half. Now, how do we treat for it? It infects early, so we have to put a seed treatment where that infection takes place. And at Syngenta, we have a product called Saltro. Now, Saltro is the seed treatment of choice for when we're talking about SDS and SCN. And SCN is soybean cyst nematode. That's another common pest that affects our soybeans throughout the whole Midwest.
So this is one thing that we want to look at here when we're talking about Saltro, is the early plant vigor, no setbacks and things like that versus the competition here. If we look at the cotyledons on these plants, there is no burn around the cotyledons. I'll go see if I can find one that happens to have a little bit of burn, because the competition's actually in a strip over here a little further away. If we look at the roots look fantastic. Looking at this plant right now, it looks very happy and very healthy. Even in, I don't want to know if it would call it trying conditions, but hanging out in this cereal rye, early plant vigor, no setback, good root development. Saltro's looking really good early on. In comparison, the competition SDS treatment here is expressing the burning around the outside of the cotyledons. The plant does not look like it has as much vigor to it. And definitely the root system is not nearly as robust. Now we're actually standing in one of the earlier planted fields, and this one actually is a strip of untreated soybeans right here. They're really close to being ready to be harvested. These guys could probably go in a week or less. But since we didn't see sudden death this year, which I really honestly would have liked to see it from a learning standpoint, but I'm happy that we didn't see it as a grower standpoint. And that's something I don't want to ever see in my fields. We've seen it before, major yield robbing. But if we would have been able to see it really pronounced in this untreated strip, it would have been pretty cool compared to like a treated strip over here. Now we are standing in the Saltro treated strip right here. Stand wise, the stand looks substantially better here. A lot more beans per acre versus the untreated soybeans. Stand, definitely an improvement. Rootworm in that one. So if we look at the roots there, that's the root difference. And if you look at just the plant themselves, you can definitely tell that these guys right here have quite a few more pods on them. So let's get back to the combine and see what the yield monitor says. Untreated soybeans came in at 51.66 bushels per acre, and the soybeans with the seed treatment, including the Saltro, came in at 59.29 bushels per acre. So around an 8 bushel advantage to the treated soybeans. Now granted, those aren't just treated with Saltro, but definitely like seeing that type of return. That is a little bit bigger or more drastic of a return. These test strips were in the neighborhood of, I think they're like 1.75 acres per test strip basically. But I also repeated this test, and the other test strips were in the neighborhood of 10-acre test strips. So real world application, and the difference in between the treated and untreated soybeans in that field was closer to 3.5 bushels per acre. So if you're interested, or if you had sudden death syndrome in your field this year, I'd look into Saltro Seed Treatment as an option to helping control the sudden death syndrome that's robbing your yield. All the information will be linked down below if you want to go check that out. But for now, we're on to the population trial part of this plot. And as far as for the population plot goes, same soybeans, same treatments, everything like that. At 120, it came out to 50.75 bushels an acre. At 140, came out to 54.65 bushels an acre. 160, which is also the weak part of the plot, came out to 49.92 bushels an acre. And then at 180,000 this year, actually won it at 56.97. So maybe with the drought this year, and even with the early planting, the higher population got us a little better yields there. You plant your beans or did you drill your beans?
I used the drill.
You used the drill? What would you grow for soybean yields? What were some of your soybean yields usually? 60? That's pretty good. I don't think we're gonna make it to 60 field average here this year. So that's good. I'm going to cut a little bit here more tonight, and then I'll quit, and I'll see you guys in the morning because GoPro's stuck in the dark. What, are you starting fall tillage? There's something in there? Is there something in there? Get it. Get it? You got one there and one there. What are you doing? Just digging down a crack?